tonight, we got a little itinerary here. The Louisville shooting last night, I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed pretty much regardless of the results. There's going to be no satisfactory result to satisfy the mob. They're ready to riot. But during the run-ins last night, there was 2 officers got shot. And the reason I bring this up is because I have a brother who works in Louisville, and so he got to see, these public buildings boarded up, but he lives out in the rural areas outside of Louisville, and they are like, he didn't know that they were prepping for this mob until I actually told him, even though I'm on the other side of the continent here. So I mentioned months ago that these riots, they're gonna first start in cities. You're gonna have some of the suburb areas also be impacted, but the rural areas, you should be good. And so that's still holding up. The rural areas are too much out of the way, and there's too much space in between houses for them to do significant damage to multiple lives, people. So he's be able to work with his livestock without any concern dealing with this nonsense by just living a bit out of the city. So just try and point that home again. If you want to avoid this nonsense, you want to be getting out of the cities, especially these major cities. Okay, the Jake Gardner suicide. So, and of course, it did. If I just do a search for it, they're all under this protest for racial justice. America reckons with racial injustice. This had nothing to do with that. He was getting basically ambushed, and this was merely self-defense. For those who are not familiar with the Jake Gardner suicide, Crowder actually has a really good feature. I'm just gonna do the first 3 or so minutes of this video, because it gives a really good overview of the situation, and I'll briefly discuss it.
Jake Gardner, you guys may have remembered this. Sorry, it wasn't Oklahoma, it was Omaha. Do you remember the protest? They were in Omaha, and a bar owner. No, I was the one who queued you up for it. Jake Gardner. Yeah, Jake Gardner was a bar owner, and it was James Scurlock was the guy who attacked him. So Gardner shot Scurlock in self-defense. And let's go really quickly here. You can just run it as B-roll to secure, or is it a clip?
It's a clip. I can turn the volume down.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? You can. Here's the security footage in case you had forgotten. Let's roll this really quickly. You can see Gardner is mounted by a guy, right? He fires a warning shot. That guy gets up and leaves. He tries to get up, and that Scurlock who jumps in tackles him and continues punching him in the head, right? You see this here? And then he finally ends up shooting Scurlock. So this was outside of a bar. In case people don't remember this, now we can bring up the volume because it was his attorney.
To get the gun away from him.
Even if they're difficult decisions, even if they might be unpopular decisions, but it's based on what the evidence is and what the law is. And that's what I hope people understand here.
So that was the county attorney, Don Klein, right? We covered this. We thought it was kind of the end of it, where he said he wouldn't file charges because this was a completely justified shooting. Again, let's keep in mind, it wasn't just a war of words and then they start shooting, right? It was a guy who got on top of him. I don't know the first guy. Bang, 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 punching him, trying to pound his head into concrete.
Yeah. And trying to take his gun.
And trying to take his gun. Yeah. Gardner fired a warning shot. You can clearly see not at him. That guy gets up, runs away. And so he's getting up the second time. Then another guy tackles him, starts beating his head into the concrete, and he shot him. And the county attorney said, all right, this is clearly justified self-defense.
Yep.
But then activists, of course, went nuts because they get the stories wrong always. And the attorney crumbled and turned the case over to a grand jury who found him guilty with 4 felonies, including manslaughter. So if he had been convicted, Gardner would face 95 years in prison, and he killed himself. So Gardner committed suicide because he talk about a guy who defends himself from not 1 but 2 savage beatings and already fired a warning shot is then charged with felonies.
Yeah.
This is a question to you. If this isn't justified use of your Second Amendment rights, what does it have to be? Someone having already entered your gun safe in your home?
Yeah.
These are 2 people who were beating his head into the concrete with no one. Here's something else that people don't think. People were around.
Yeah.
None of them helped. Because guess what?
No.
If he'd have fought somebody off with his hands, I don't care if he's the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. There's another guy lining right up, and they're all going to jump on you. He would have been at least beaten into the ICU, beaten into a coma at best. At worst, would have been torn apart by a pack of wolves.
Well, again, they were trying to take his gun.
They were trying to take the gun and beating the hell out of him.
Well, and it was not just that. There were 2 guys that he fired.
And that pretty much seals the deal. You go for someone's gun.
Fired the warning shots. I think he actually fired 2 warning shots. In that moment, he had an opportunity to shoot them and chose not to.
Right.
They get up and go away. He starts to get up, back turned. A guy comes, not only is punching him, he's actually choking him with his right arm.
Right.
And so he finally, at some point, is either I'm about to die, or I'm going to have to shoot this guy, and shoots the guy in, I think, the clavicle right here through the neck, something like that, from right here.
Right.
And what else is he supposed to do? I think maybe wait until you die and then use your gun.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Is that how they do it?
Postmortem.
I mean, you saw the flying leap that the guy took onto his back. I mean, there was no question in that moment.
And that was the second guy.
Right, and that's the second guy, right?
That's a
Third. That's the second beating. The third guy. There were 2 guys
Third
initially.
guy.
Oh, it's a
and
third
that's
guy,
the third guy.
second beating.
Yes.
Second beating. Can't keep track of all the beatings that are happening here. There's no question that when you had that moment and the announcement that there was just self-defense involved, that seemed like the right decision. It seemed that it's supported by the evidence, by the witnesses, by the camera footage, and then you see what is very clearly the bullying and ignoring of evidence that then caused the government to crumble and move forward to bring these charges. And it's a tragedy because it's essentially folks not only saying, you already have the bad actors who are saying, we don't care what the facts are if you shot someone who's on our side.
So now that Jake's gone, we can't say for sure, because while he was indicted, that didn't go through the process, so he might have gotten off. But there is no way it would have proceeded this far 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So justice is withering away. If you somehow are within the area of wherever these riots are happening, and you think you can stand your ground and that justice is on your side, as I've been sharing for months now, this is part of a greater process, and this process doesn't stop until people are begging for someone to save them from all this nonsense. So it's turning the leftists into the most kind of depraved, villainous, I guess you could say it's turning them into a straw man. Instead of making a straw man, I mean, they have become the ultimate extreme, not parody, but the boogeyman of the worst case scenario of themselves. And so seeing that, there's only one natural response on the flip side, and people are going to go way too far to the other side, and you're going to all this loss of freedom is going to be justified for the sake of security. And so this just again nails down the point. All these tightly knit, not tightly knit, but tightly packed populous cities, where all these riots are being started up. It's justice is, it's you can't depend on when, and so that's why Jake took his life. We don't, again, we don't know how it would have panned out, but it's the mob has caused other judges to side with the mob, and so yeah, get out of the cities again. Okay, so for my fellow Canucks, CERB is ending. That's the Canada Emergency Relief Benefit, and it is being replaced, maybe. The Liberal government has proposed this, and where it hasn't gone through yet as of today, but it's now the Canada Recovery Benefit. Now, as much as I poo-poo how the CERB has been done, I mean, I did take advantage of it, but I think it was way too generous. $2,000 plus, you combine that with, if you make more than $1,000, then you don't qualify. So it's encouraging people not, especially if they were close to making that or less, it's encouraging them not to work. So this new one makes more sense. So now it's not $1,000 based on $1,000 or less. It's if your income has been reduced by 50% or more due to the pandemic. The problem is just trillions of dollars are being thrown to restart the economy or to carry people through. This money's based off of nothing, hot air. And so this will be coming to bite everyone, together with the mortgage deferrals coming due later this year, and just it's not looking good in North America or the world over, the economy. Now, so if you are getting whether it's CERB or perhaps maybe the CRB in the future here in Canada, or if you're getting I think it's $1,200 every so often, or if it's a one-time thing down in the States, what should you spend it on other than, okay, so if you've got your rent covered or mortgage payment covered or whatever, you've got your groceries, if you have anything over, what do you do with that? Is it time to get little knickknacks that you've wanted? No, right now, if you have debt, pay down the debt. And I wrote save here, but it's more spend wisely. I ran out of room. Is the practical things moving forward again? You want to be able to grow your own food moving forward. So anything along those lines, anything that would help you have a better time of living in a compromised infrastructure environment. And then the other thing, so I said pay off that debt and save. You want to make sure you want to make sure you have some set aside to pay the tax on this money, because this money is taxable. So make sure you're keeping some aside for that. But yes, you're going to want to also, whatever's left over, start getting practical stuff. Now, I did mention the past stuff like if you need a laptop, don't get a laptop just because I got $1,000 to drop on a laptop. It's more of in the upcoming power outages, and because there's going to be plenty of more storms and then infrastructure issues in the coming years. So it's more about just having the ability to have some portability. So it's not about, now I can afford that, top of the end gaming laptop. It's about, having the functionality when the power goes out. And a UPS is also handy for that but yeah. Basically expect more issues with power, even especially in places like California. You got down power lines and whatnot. So that's what I'm saying is to get a laptop is they're more convenient for when the power is iffy. And you might want to get a small little UPS for your modem, your router. Anyway, so enough of that. Enough about that. Let's now. In the past, I mentioned with Donald Trump. I'm not sure if he's part of the club, but even if he's not, he can be used to further chip away at freedoms as a response to what's happening with all the riots. And so it will be requested, if anything demanded, as a response to these riots, to bring them under control, giving the government more power. So with this video, I just caught wind of this past week, but it came out last month. He tweeted this, and it's quite concerning. And there's a whole lot more quotes and clips and vids and whatever I could refer about this. But it is especially concerning how Donald Trump is quite on board with bringing the church and state back together. So, first of all, just in this tweet here, it says, "Happy Sunday, we want God." And so in the picture, it shows Pope John Paul II. And then I'm just going to play this. And just the whole theme of this clip I find concerning here.
Through 4 decades of communist rule, Poland and the other captive nations of Europe endured a brutal campaign to demolish freedom, your faith, your laws, your history, your identity, indeed the very essence of your culture and your humanity. And when the day came on June 2nd, 1979, and 1 million Poles gathered around Victory Square for their very first Mass with their Polish Pope, that day every communist in Warsaw must have known that their oppressive system would soon come crashing down. They must have known it at the exact moment during Pope John Paul II's sermon, when 1 million Polish men, women, and children suddenly raised their voices in a single prayer. We want God. Together with Pope John Paul II, the Poles reasserted their identity as a nation devoted to God. You stood in solidarity against oppression, against a cruel and wicked system that impoverished your cities and your souls. And you won. We can still hear those voices that echo through history. Their message is as true today as ever. The people of Poland, the people of America, and the people of Poland.
I just want to replay that.
Today, their message, go through history, their message is as true today as ever.
Okay, just once more time.
Their message is as true today as ever. The people of Poland, the people of America, and the people of Europe still cry out, "We want God."
So my question is, which God? So again, going back to previous video about what is this conflict? What is this war all about? You know, what's happening with what you're seeing socially is the French Revolution in reverse. So we're seeing, instead of you have a corrupt religious system that has been rebelled against, and then sets up a corrupt atheist system, and so it seeded this need, because what was observed in France at the French Revolution, what that seeded is the need for separation of church and state at that time. Is we don't want to see the Roman Catholic Church again influence all these, like they did for over 1,200 years in Europe, influencing all these governments and getting people into positions of power and having them all on puppet strings. We want to avoid that, and we also want to avoid whatever that was in the French Revolution, because it didn't really, the French Revolution didn't separate church and state. All it did is basically put the reason on a pedestal. You had the goddess of reason set up, and they just still used the church building. The whole structure was still there, but now new rulers. And so the U.S. was brought up moving away from that. So now we're moving back to that, but now it's flipping. What you're seeing now is people getting, now, instead of fed up with the religious system, they're getting fed up with the depravity of this system. And so you see the messaging here as that the Polish were getting sick of communism, the socialism there, and so they returned to God. They want God. And so, oh, how interesting, it was the same religious organization, the Roman Catholic Church, and they still they haven't changed. If you just watch as they are given power again, that same oppressive structure still in place, given the power to manipulate, and that's exactly what they're doing now. So don't fall for it. There's only one intercessor between man and God, and it isn't the Pope. And so you need to know God for yourself. You do not need this corrupt system in your life. It is rubbish. So don't get duped by this false spiritual nonsense that's coming up in our society. So this is why it's so important for you to have relationships, particularly with God, in order as we're going through this. Because without that, you're going to be looking for something to hold on to in these chaotic times. And if you don't have anything, you are going to be provided with something. And at the end of the day, you're not going to like what's provided. Just look throughout the Dark Ages to see what it looks like when church and state is united. So let's leave on that for tonight. On a eerie note. Anyway, that's it. I will see you again. I will probably be doing my friendship probably on Monday 1. And I might be on some other people's streams for Twitch things over the weekend. Of course, we got the Friday Night Toast tomorrow. And but not on this stream. Again, this next stream is not going to be till Monday. But yeah, that's it. Thanks. Good night.